This guy is very funny. He's a very good friend of mine. I've worked with him a bunch of times. We love him here at Zanies. So give it up for George Tracy. Let him hear it. George Tracy.
What's up, everybody? Come on, give it up for Pat, for Mike, and for Cliff. Come on, it's Friday night. Okay, let me put that out by telling you guys, I'm from Chicago, but I do not have a Midwest accent. That's because when I was 21 years old, I had a head injury, and I've sounded this way ever since. I tried speech therapy, but that didn't help, because speech therapy doesn't teach you how to talk. What it does is it teaches you how to process information and problem solve. Well, let me tell you, I was never good at problem solving before the accident. Maybe if I was, I wouldn't hit that tree, you know what I'm saying? The hard part is people just think I'm drunk all the time. Give me 10 o'clock in the morning, do a little drinking there, right, buddy? Something I ain't drinking, you know? Either that or really slow in the head, you know? Do you know how many times people told me about that movie Forrest Gump? Yeah, they say, hey George, I'm not saying you're stupid, I'm just saying you gotta see this movie. But that's because people need to understand. Some guys, we just go through a lot, right? A lot of jobs, a lot of money, a lot of women. Me, a lot of CAT scans, you know. I can cut my finger, go to the hospital, they'll give me a CAT scan, you know. It gets irritating, you know. But I think it all started because when I was in the hospital, I was in a coma for a month, you know. Now I had to stop telling people about that. Because you see how quiet it got in here right now? People get all weird when they hear the word coma. Because they think it's like in the movies, you know? And they come with these questions. Ooh, what was it like? Do you remember anything? Did you see a light? Did you see a light? I gotta tell them, no, I didn't see a light. I did hear something, though. You guys want to know what I heard? No. Do you guys want to know what I heard? Yeah. Alright, good. Then I need you guys to help me out on this one, okay? Alright, all I need you guys to do is to close your eyes. Right. Look, you can trust me, I'm a professional, you know? Just close your eyes. This is what I heard. I heard a George. A George. George. For a freaking month. Now, I'm like, what the heck, you know? Then I finally woke up, you know, the nurse asked me, she said, can you remember anything? And I was like, well, I remember my name is George. What the heck, man? Then I didn't see a doctor for like a week, right? I just laid in the bed waiting for the doctor. Finally, doctor comes in. This is what he told me. He said, good news, no permanent brain damage. He said the only thing that happened is you got a bruise on your brain. And he showed me the x-ray, right? I saw a picture of my brain. I saw this little white spot. It says the dime, you know? He said, do you see it? And I was like, right there, huh? He said, no, that's the only good part. Oh, come on, it was my head that cracked me up. Oh, man, that doctor's too much, you know? Man. But they did say that they expected I would have like 90, doctors said I'll have like 90-95% recovery. He said the only thing he was concerned with is the fact that I bruised the frontal lobe in my brain. He said, which tends to make people disinhibited, right? Well, let me tell you, I didn't know what disinhibited meant, so I asked, what's disinhibited mean? He said, well, basically what it means is you're going to have an inability to focus, so you're not going to take things seriously, so you're not really going to stay on track or hold down steady jobs or relationships or That don't sound like 95% recovery, does it? Like, yeah, but you won't have a job, a wife, a house, nothing, you know? You can't even keep a hobby, you know? But I'll tell you, from my personal experience, I found it to be the exact opposite. Because I have more what you call that tunnel vision, you know? Like how about you? You guys ever get stuck? Because my eyes get stuck on everything from a woman to a lampshade, you know? I find myself staring all the time, you know? And it makes it really hard. Especially, you know, like you guys saw me, I was back there. Before a show, I like to look over, because see if they're friendly people or whatnot, you know? So I look over, and I find myself staring at some guy, but not staring at a guy in that kind of way, staring in the direction of a guy, you know? And it makes it really hard, because they always say the same thing. They're always like, what, you got some kind of staring problem? This sounds cocky when I'm like, yeah, I do it. Yeah. But I'll tell you, when I was in the hospital, I had to speak to a psychologist. Now here's something I learned. If you ever speak to a psychologist, never tell them what the real problem is. Yeah, because they want to find it on their own, you know? And if they can't find it, they'll just make something up, you know? Like for me, they made up abandonment issues, right? They said because I was so young when my parents got divorced that I still had abandonment issues. Which I couldn't understand because my mom was married 3 times. So I was abandoned. It wasn't for very long, I'll tell you that. What the heck, you know? But that's just the way people think all the time. They always think, oh, he comes from a broken home. There were problems or something like that. I mean, there was no real problem. I mean, sure, we all had different last names, you know? But when you grow up that way, that's the regular. That's the norm, you know? I remember I used to walk to school with this kid, Chucky Thompson, right? Now, he had 8 kids in his family, and they all had the same last name. Now, I thought that was weird, you know? I was like, man, I was like, what are you, some kind of a clan or something? I felt bad for him, you know? I was like, you don't even get your own name, you know? No way, you know? I remember being a kid. Hey, by round of applause, who remembers the old Batman and Robin? That's it. Everyone has to vote here. Now that's the Batman I grew up on. Now when we were kids, they brought the Batmobile to the Chicago Auto Show, you know? So my mom took his kids down there to see it. You know when we got down there? Batman hit on my mother. Let me tell you, we were in between dance at the time too. And we were like, go for it. How cool would that be, right? They could be like my dad could beat up your dad, man. Not in my dad's Batman. No way. But anyways, see, I gotta come up on stage and I have to explain that to people. Because unless I explain that to people, people just sit back and wonder, who let the drunk guy up on stage? You know what I mean? Now that's the way I gotta explain that to people one day. But I just, because what I have isn't exactly a speech impediment. It's more kind of like a slur on the words, you know? One person called it an affliction. It sounds contagious, don't it? You know? So I looked it up in the dictionary. It said, cause pain or suffering. To who? Me or you, right? Don't make it make sense. Man. But I do have a good voice. I use it on the phone. You guys want to hear it? Yeah. All right, let me take your phone. Coke. This is Coke, woman. You think I sound bad now? You should have heard me when I was drinking, you know? It was like, what do you say? I get mad and say it loud. Alright, right, here we go. Here, are you ready? Thanks for your time and have a good day. Pretty good, right? It's not exactly effortless, so I gotta really focus to sound that good, you know? I remember one time I was at the house, the phone rang, it went ring ring, I picked it up real fast. Forgot to use my good voice. It was one of those telemarketers. You know, he refused to survey me. Yeah, he said, I'm sorry, I'll call back at a better time. I told him, I said, no, this is a good time. He said, I don't think so. It's not like president, don't it? I was like, man, that's why he said he think he was president until this happened to me, right? So I'm going to pick up my wife from the train one day, right? Now I get there, it was an elevated train, had a set of stairs come down on each side. Now I wasn't sure which side she was going to come down. So this is what I figured. I figured I'd stand across the street, get a panoramic view both sides, so I see her when she come down and catch her, right? So I went, stood across the street, and I looked up and I saw a metro sign. I said, oh boy, I'm not supposed to be waiting on the metro, you know? I was like, I could be in the wrong spot. But just then I saw this guy walk down from the train. He came across the street to the bus stop, right? Now he looked reasonably intelligent, so I figured I'd walk up to him and I'd ask him with my good voice. I said, excuse me, could you tell me if this is a Lake Street L or the metro stop? He said, why is both? I said, thanks for your time and have a good day. And I went back over and stood across the street, you know. I stood there for like 5 minutes. You know, the guy walked up to me, he goes, you know, you gotta go up there to get trained, don't you? Do I look that freaking stupid, you know? I know I talk that stupid, I use my good voice. Man, no way. Now listen, I gotta tell you people. Now I've told that story on quite a few occasions. And something like that happened to you, you tell that story, right? Okay, now, you know what the most surprising part of that story is? The fact that I'm married, you know what I mean? They're like, oh really? You're married? It's like they don't believe me because they're always like, oh really? Let's see pictures of your kids. I'm like, oh, you gotta prove it. You know, like, no way. Man, but anyway, I'm going to be getting out of here, but before I do, give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, because, you know, doing this is a lot of fun. It's not always that. I remember one time I did the show, right? After the show, I'm going out to my car. This guy stopped me in the parking lot. This is what he told me. He said, you know what? He said, you were real funny up there, man. I said, thanks a lot. That made me feel good, you know? But then he followed it up with, but just do me a favor. On your way home tonight, be careful driving. Yeah, he said it's the holidays. There's a lot of cops out there. He said the last thing you want to do is get stopped by a cop. I told the guy, I said, listen, man, the last thing I want to get stopped by is a treat. You know what I'm saying?
George Tracy, how about it? There you go.